Welcome to One on One, the Daily Items weekly digital program featuring Susquehanna Valley newsmakers interviewed by Daily Item reporters. Today's guest is one of Santa's helpers, Victoria Rosancrans, interviewed by reporter Justin Strawser.
It's cloaked in stunning designer attire, a statement of fashion from every angle, unashamed of its opulence, but nothing you didn't already expect from Lincoln.
Unveil innovation with purpose during the Lincoln Wishlist sales event with the 2018 Lincoln MKZ or the 2018 Lincoln Navigator Reserve L. The feeling stays with you.
Sunbury Motors Lincoln, run by the Mertz family since 1915.
Welcome to One on One. I'm Justin Strawser. Our guest today is Victoria Rosancrans, who just finished up the first season of her role as Santa Claus in Sunbury. Thanks for joining us today, Vicki.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You play many, many roles in this community, but your most recent one, as we just said, is that of Santa Claus.
Right.
You and your wife, Christine, just finished up your first experience as Santa and Mrs. Claus. How did that go?
It went really well. We absolutely enjoyed ourselves. Sunday was our last night at the Santa house. And when we got home that night and we were just sort of reflecting back over the season, we sort of were like, we're really going to miss it. You know, miss talking with the children and the families and the babies. And so now we're like, what are we going to do this week? So, but rest a little bit.
Yeah,
it was a lot, you know, but we absolutely enjoyed it.
You've had a busy schedule this past December, so
right, yeah,
I'm sure you deserve a little bit of rest.
Between Santa and then our charity, it's nonstop and for about a month of December, so yeah.
So you took over the role of Santa following the death of Ray DeFacius.
Right.
He played Santa more than 30 years.
All right.
4 of them in the city. What was your relationship like with Ray? You know, tell us about how you met him.
Well, I actually met Ray through another gentleman who I was friends with his wife. His wife was my supervisor at Nottingham Village, and her husband's name was Craig. And Craig and I, from the moment we met each other, he was just like my second dad. And I didn't have a dad in my life growing up. I mean, I had a stepdad and then a divorce. But so Craig was like my second dad. Unfortunately, Craig had passed away from cancer, but Ray and Craig were best friends. So it was like I had 2 dads, you know. Craig passed away from cancer, and then Ray and I became even closer because of my loss of Craig. So yeah, Ray was like my second dad, so to speak. And so that our relationship really became closer and even closer than when we started the charity. So that was Ray's idea. So
yeah, Ray was a fun guy.
Yeah.
Very, very jolly. You know, worked with him for the last couple of years as well. And how did it feel stepping into that role as Santa Claus after knowing how good of a job Ray did?
Yeah. And I remember as Ray was playing Santa, and he would talk to me about how he would joke with the kids, and he'd talk about his reindeer and all of those things. And so I was like, I was really nervous. I mean, the night of the parade, I usually am not nervous. I can get up and talk in front of 400, 500 people at a conference. It doesn't bother me. Putting on that suit and trying to sort of step into the role that Ray played I was nervous. But I just remembered, but when Tina gave me that suit and I tried it on the first night, I put that coat on, and the energy that was in that coat was amazing. I mean, it was a magical moment when I put that on. Christine was standing there, and of course I became tearful. But I'd like to think I made him proud, and I had fun with it and joked just like he did. And so I every night I'd say, okay, Ray, channel me some energy here, and let's get through this. And but I think I made him proud.
Yeah, well, I was over there one night getting some pictures of you, and that little kid came in, and you had this knowledge of Paw Patrol that I was very impressed with.
Yeah. Well, that comes from being a pediatric nurse, and my patient loves Paw Patrol, anything Pokemon, and now the new toys out are the PJ Masks, and the little girls coming in. And I have to admit, I did not know what an LOL doll was or
I still
Squishy.
don't.
But when I would leave there at night, I would go home and I'd research the toys.
Okay.
So that way, the next night when I was in, I knew what an LOL and a squishy was. So, and I'll tell you, it was very consistent across the season of what the girls wanted and the boys wanted. Okay. I mean, it was very consistent. So
they wanted the squishies. And
the girls wanted American Doll Girls, LOL dolls, those JoJo bows, and Baby Alive. Okay. The boys wanted Nintendo Switches, Nerf guns, and Xbox games and PlayStation games.
Good taste.
Yeah. So yeah. And of course Santa plays an Xbox. So and their eyes would just get so big when I'd start talking about the video games and stuff like that. But again, I have to credit my patient that I take care of because he's an Xbox player.
Okay.
So.
You also worked with Ray for the last few years on the charity, Santa's Miracle Gift of Giving. When Ray passed, was there even a question of continuing that, or was that always, we're going to keep going?
There wasn't. I remember when I received that phone call from Tina that Ray had passed.
His wife.
His wife, yes. Tina's his wife. And when I received that phone call, which was a horrible phone call.
Right.
But, and Tina, that was one of the things that Tina, I mean, in that moment, she just lost her husband a couple hours before that. But that day it was, and that's one of the things we talked about. And she said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to continue. It's fine. It's okay. And we're going to continue that. And then I reached out to Terry, city clerk, and let Terry know that Ray had passed. And, of course, she was shocked as well. And she said, oh, my gosh, what are we going to do? And I said, you have your Santa right here. And so, I mean, I offered, and she said, oh, my God, who better to do it than, who worked with him closely and could do that. So, I mean, it was taken care of the same day. I mean, Ray left us, but it went on. And so this year was bigger than ever for the charities. Actually, till we finished, we were at 15.
15
We
families.
Took on a couple extra. Even after
Was that about 60?
It came out to 65 people.
65 people? That's awesome. That was December 22nd. Correct. So that was the time of recording this, just last Saturday.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that day was like with helping so many people?
Well, the night before we wrap all the gifts. So we had about 10 volunteers, and we were able to wrap all of the gifts and things at Frank and Melly's on Market Street in Sunbury. We have a Victorian home, which is large, but to hold that many toys.
It sounds like a lot of toys.
It was. And we literally had a path from our foyer to our dining room and all the way around of just bags stacked in toys. So we have to sort that. So we sorted all out at a home, and then we actually got a van from U-Haul and took everything in one foul swoop. But 10 volunteers came Friday night to wrap all the gifts, and that we had it. Christine had it all organized around the perimeter of the restaurant, and we got it all wrapped. And then Saturday, we set up in 15-minute increments for the families to come and pick up. And from 11 to 11:45, we were done by noon. And I looked at Christine and I said, it takes so much work to organize all that and wrap it, and it's out of here in an hour.
That's how it always is.
Yeah, it's like, wow. I mean, it goes very fast, but the families come in so appreciative. Many of the families come in and they're tearful, hugging us, just, can't thank enough. I know the one father went out, loaded the car, and he had to come back in and thank us again.
Yeah.
So, and again, we just say it's our pleasure. And yesterday I was getting emails, Facebook messages, and text messages from the families with pictures thanking us for the thing. So they do follow up with us and let us know that the kids liked what they got. And, so I had some pictures came in today again from some people. Good. So
this is veteran families.
We do a veterans
people
family.
Who've lost, everything in the house fire.
Yeah, we had the house fire from Sunbury a few months ago. Most recent employee from Northumberland County, employee that passed.
Yeah, he was the gentleman who took care of Charlie the cat.
Charlie the cat, yes. So so we of course reached out to that family, and we had a lot of donors, and we were able to give them a nice gift certificate that was given to us by a wise employee. So they were able to. They're going to be okay for groceries for the month. So. Yeah.
And you mentioned before we started about next year doing Sensory Santa. Can you tell us what that is?
Some of the best, wonderful experiences I had, where we had a lot of autistic children come in. And being a nurse, and I can pick up on that without the parents really telling me, because, you don't want to single your child out. So one of the biggest things even with the toddlers, we would say just sit them down or let them stand, and it's in their time. We don't rush them, especially with the autistic kiddos. But the one child I remember is Connor on Sunday. This autistic young man came in. His family said, not sure how he's going to do. He was really afraid of Santa last year. Was, crying and screaming. And we didn't have a problem. I picked up on the autism, left him, do his thing, and he would come over and he'd touch my beard, and then I tickle him back, and then, the parents said he sort of nonverbal. That doesn't mean they can't communicate. It just means that, he can't use his words. But he actually ran over to me at one point and he said, ho, ho. Oh. And the parents were like, oh my goodness, And then by the time they were ready to leave, they were probably there a good 25 minutes. The family was large, so they were getting pictures. But he came over and hugged me.
That's adorable.
And the mom was tearful, and she said, he doesn't even hug me like that.
Aww.
So I went home that night, and I was like, it will stick with me forever. It really will. But I looked at Christine, and I said, we need to do a Sensory Santa. So we're going to do that next year, where we will be announcing that, and they will be able to contact us and set up a time for the family to come, not just the autistic child, but the entire family. And that way it'll be, we'll change the lighting in the Santa house to just a low lit, because autistic children don't like the bright lights. They don't like that humming sound. And just give the family their own time to be in the house with Santa and the child. And hopefully we can get some pictures or whatever. Yeah. But I think the other thing with the toddlers was having Christine as Mrs. Claus. We have a lot of pictures of Christine holding the children and not Santa. Because they took to Christine quicker than Santa. Oh. So she would sit beside me, and I would just lean in, and we'd get a picture. And this one kid went like this, and I sort of sat back like I didn't move, So Christine, being Mrs. Claus, they loved it. The kids would come in and be like, oh, Mrs. Claus is here too, And then we also had elves that, children in the community that signed up. And the elves, the kids were just enthralled, like, wow, there's elves from the North Pole here. So, and that was sort of for us to have kiddos come in and volunteer. You start young, and it feels good when you do good things. And the kids really enjoyed it. So, and then of course Santa and Mrs. Claus gave him a little gift for volunteering.
So before we take our break, I wanted to ask you, being that you and Christine are a bit unconventional as playing Santa and Mrs. Claus. Did you get a lot of negative comments or anything? And
no,
how did you deal with it if you did?
Honestly, we didn't get any negative comments at the Santa house. The parents will come in. I mean, some parents knew that that I was a woman. They didn't, the children did pick up on it, not that I'm aware of. We received a wonderful Facebook message from a mother who came in and thanked us for being so kind to her children, because they were scared, but by the time they left, they were sitting on our lap and they were hugging us. And she actually said kudos to the city or whoever chose for me to play Santa, that she thought it was awesome that that a woman was playing Santa Claus. I did see a few Facebook posts of people that were saying, well, the Mr. is a Mrs. and but people came back and commented, well, if you know who she was in the story, you wouldn't be writing that.
And I'm sure the reactions to the kids are way more important to you than
absolutely
some trolls on the internet.
Exactly, and they don't know the story. They don't know the story of Ray and why I stepped into that role. So I think if they understood that, then they would be like, oh, okay. And I can tell you, I'm not the only woman out there in the world that's playing Santa Claus. Is helping other places. So again, I thank the city that they. Terry and the Light Fest committee, that they were okay with that, and they couldn't think of, I'm sure there's other people out there that could do it, but I already told her I'm ready for next year, and she said okay. So we're just going to continue as long as we can,
Okay. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Victoria Rosancrans.
It's cloaked in stunning designer attire, a statement of fashion from every angle, unashamed of its opulence. But nothing you didn't already expect from Lincoln.
Unveil innovation with purpose during the Lincoln Wishlist sales event with the 2018 Lincoln MKZ or the 2018 Lincoln Navigator Reserve L. The feeling stays with you.
Sunbury Motors Lincoln, run by the Mertz family since 1915.
Welcome back to One-on-One. Again, I'm Justin Strawser, and we're talking with Victoria Rosancrans. Like I said earlier, Vicki, you play many roles in the community. Obviously, you're an in-home care nurse. You spoke a little bit about that. Other things that I can recall, you led the charge in 2017 to save the prison, the old prison from being torn down. Right. You organized shopping sprees for family around Christmas. I think I covered that a couple years ago. Right. You were the adult mentor of the Northumberland County Youth Leadership. You know, you guys host an annual bullying prevention event. Obviously, you're a Rotarian. You're involved with a paranormal group. And am I missing anything? Anything off the top of your head that you can think of?
Nope, just, the youth. I mean, I am a Red Cross disaster nurse. I haven't been active in the past few years, but I still with them. But, that's important work that I like to do as well. But, there's probably lots of things, but I just do things because I enjoy doing it.
Okay.
So,
okay. So I've worked with you the last couple of years with bullying prevention and covering the event and Northumberland County Youth Leadership. What have you learned as the adult mentor of that program with working with the young people of the county?
Well, I think we have a vast variety of youth that come in, whether whether they're coming in. Maybe they're involved in foster care. Maybe they are, we also just take youth from the Northumberland County. They don't have to be involved with probation or foster care. But I think consistently what we're seeing is, and what we were teaching the youth also is trauma. And when trauma happens at a young age, and untreated, whether, mental health and things like that, and that's a majority of the youth that we're helping have a mental health diagnosis. So the work that we do with these youth is to fight that stigma. And we also do hold in May, that's Mental Health Awareness Month. And the youth do a public activity as well to teach the people about that you can have depression and still function. You can be bipolar and still function. And to fight that stigma because, people get labeled, like, oh, she's bipolar. Well, no, her name's Susie, and she is, has bipolar disorder, but that doesn't define who she is. So the youth really talk about that, and we spend a lot of time with the youth talking about their mental health and how they're handling it. Are they going to counseling? Are they taking their medications? And also supporting, at home, how are things at home? And how can we, teaching coping skills and things like that. So
one of the cool things at the last event in October, it was October, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, it was the Tolerance Troop. Right. With Harvey Edwards down in Selinsgrove. Right. They brought in, their maybe 5 or 6 youth, and they acted and did roles, and then the crowd interacted with them and was asking them questions as their characters.
Right, yeah.
I noticed it was really easy to be like, well, what would happen if we did this to you, and then try to turn the tables on them. But like that's not what you should do either. So I think it's a really cool event that you do each year and bring something new to the table. Yeah, the youth are really, enjoy that because a lot of them do get bullied. We do talk about that a lot at meetings as well, is how do we handle the bullying and how do we handle that person that's doing it and of course reporting it. But they love that event, and we just our first time we did it here in Sunbury, and we try to move it around. We've done it Shamokin, Mount Carmel, and this year we did Milton. So we try to move it to where the towns that the youth are coming from, so that they can do it in their own community. Is there anything that we mentioned or that we've talked about here that is the most near and dear to your heart, like any of these programs?
Well, I think they all are, but I would have to say mentoring the youth is very important to me. I grew up in Sunbury, and from a young age, I've been involved in the community. I was a Girl Scout for 13 years, did a lot of volunteer work in the community. At 14, I started working at the YMCA here in Sunbury, and I worked there until I was 24 years old. I worked my way from a camp counselor to the aquatic director, and I credit the Girl Scouts and the YMCA for instilling that work ethic, and giving back to the community. And I think without those two things, I think my life journey would have been much different.
Okay.
Not having that. And I learned that volunteering from Girl Scouts, but at the YMCA, seeing the people that, like Bob Saletti was our director there on the board, and Bob really took me under his wing and helped me grow in the YMCA, as well as Bob Bossinger and Larry Richardson. So the youth, it's so important to me because that's our future. And, mentoring them and letting them know that, we're out there. And we tell the youth that any time of day you call us, we'll be there for you. And it's happened. I've had to go pick up children or they've ran away and they've come to our home. And, of course, I say the first thing I need to do is call the parent. But the youth is so important. It's so important.
So, in the spirit of Christmas just ending, who do you think in the city is going to be on the naughty or nice list in 2019?
Oh boy! Well, our poor city council—they're always on the naughty list. But I hope as we move into the new year that our the council, it's tough to sit on city council, and you're not always going to make everybody happy, but I hope our city council and our mayor can hit over onto the nice list this year. I know we've got Northumberland County. We have some commissioners going out and some coming back to try to run, and unfortunately there's one candidate that's always going to be on my naughty list, and we'll let the public figure that out. But I love Sunbury and the people that are trying to run it and do the best that they can. So they're not always going to make everybody happy, but they hear from me if something's not what I like. I get up there and I tell them. But no, I wish them well, and I like everybody to be on a nice list. So they have time.
Okay, and then before we go, can you give us a nice ho ho ho?
Ho 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 ho! Merry Christmas.
All right. That's all the time we have today. Vicki, thanks for coming in today for our edition of 101.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching 1-on-1. Be sure to tune in next week for another edition.